Alright, Trial Mob, welcome back to another TBG feature, a Trial by Gaming's first robot spirits. Today, we have the premium Bandai flight type Gouf. Now, listen, this is an incredible figure. It's from the 08th MS team OVA. This was actually shown in two different occasions, being one where we just see them fighting against the regular Federation troops, but we also have a one-on-one battle between him and the main Easy 8 Gundam, but that's in a special feature that we'll have to take a look at another time. Now, for this review, this is the first time we're looking at the robot spirits, and I'm really happy to bring this guy because this is one of my favorite looking Gouf types that we even have. I think overall it's an incredible design, and if you can't get a hold of one, maybe even two, as I do believe we at least see two in the original OVA, I would highly recommend it. This guy looks really nice, and unlike a lot of the Goufs that are technically, you know, a slightly different shade of color, maybe a slightly different pauldron, maybe a slightly different head, this guy comes with it all. Just this is a completely different figure, made really nice with the overall Bandai articulation. The quality is there. I think that this is definitely one of those must-haves. You know, if you've never gone to the Robot Spirits line before, this could be a good way to start. Now, of course, with anything, we have to go ahead and look at the box art. And as you can tell, the box art looks really good here. I really like what they've done here with the overall presentation. For some reason, for this one specifically, we didn't get a window, so this is basically a windowless design. I feel like they tend to do that with these bigger boxes like this, but what I will say is this: they use the actual action figure as the artwork that you see here. So everything that you see is the figure, just with edits to basically make it look more realistic, right? Like how we have him basically, you know, firing his gun, or back here we have a few of them together. That's all the figure itself. It's actually really cool. You can see all the same joints. I really appreciate them using not any kind of outside artwork or anything like that. It's just the figure. So if you're into photography and you want to go ahead and get some of these shots, you can with the figure as it stands. Okay, so now jumping out and taking a look at the figure itself. The figure is very nice. Now, what I like most about this design is the fact that, again, unlike being just a slightly different color and a slightly different kit, this is a very different figure. So starting from the most obvious part is those legs. This is a thick boy that never skipped leg day. It is absolutely massive, and it does absolutely get in the way of overall movement. This guy isn't going to be sprinting at you. This is really more of a landing platform for him so that he can obviously land and then move around, but it's a really nice look overall. The paint job is, well, I don't know how much paint it is. I guess most of it is plastic, but overall the aesthetic here is just really nice. Now, if you know the other Gouf custom, the blue one, I'll have to go ahead and get the name for you guys later. This is basically that exact same head as far as I can tell, just obviously a different paint color. But then the backpack has the wings on it. The shoulder pauldrons have these, I don't know, these like flight type pauldrons. And again, I really like that. I like the fact that there's more going on here than just a slightly different repaint. This guy's definitely meant to fly. As you can tell from the wings on the backpack, they're a very nice touch, and they are articulated. As you move down towards the middle of the waist, we get to see, again, I think a little bit more in terms of the thrusters. I don't believe any of the other Gouf types come with those thrusters on the back like that. I have a few more later that we'll take a look at. But then the arms are about the same as we've gotten before. The pauldron, the waist is about the same. There's a lot of similarities between here and the other Gouf custom. Again, the thrusters is one of the big differences, and of course those flight, what would you call them? Flight suit pauldrons on the hips. Really nice look to it overall, giving it an aesthetic of being able to fly, of course. And then you got basically the main thing that makes this guy different from anybody else: these absolutely enormous legs that come with thrusters front and back. The domed shape is a really nice look. And then, of course, the, what would you call them? The blades, the rotor blades, the like helicopter style rotor blades on either side. It's a really nice aesthetic that makes this guy really pop. Makes you really sell you on the idea that this is supposed to be a fast moving flight type Gouf. Now, when it comes to accessories, we're treated to a lot of things you can see here. Multiple hands, multiple guns, the effects for the thrusters, another, what would you call it, horn, antenna, I forget what they call those, but basically the spike in the middle of the head of the Gouf. You come with an extra one, so that's always nice. And then something for the EZ-8 is that backpack. I don't believe in the OVA we saw him with the backpack, but then in that extended scene that we got in the DVD release, that's where you get to see this backpack used on the EZ-8. So who knows, I'll have to go back in and check all that stuff, but if you guys know anything else about that, let me know. But yeah, this basically allows your EZ-8 to now come with a backpack, so this is one of those things that you have to buy to kind of have that. But as you can tell, the thrusters go in very, very nice. It's a really cool look. Again, this guy looks like he's just absolutely jetting through the sky. He's just killing it. I think that the sword that he comes with is really nice. It's one of those bigger ones. And then the gun itself, it's a good looking gun. I think that this is a good looking gun. Again, this is the same type that the Gouf has, and this is also the same type of Gatling gun on the Gouf custom. It's very intimidating, very good looking. I appreciate that. And then of course here we have the EZ-8 backpack, so that completes your guy right there. So you kind of need to get this guy in order to get the whole package. All right, now for this part right here, we're going to go over articulation. Articulation is really, really hard on this guy, so I'm going to do my best to take my time here because there's a lot going on with articulation when it comes to the Robot Spirits line. It's kind of overwhelming. Okay, so for the first part, let's go ahead and look at that head. The head itself is articulated in a full 360, but it can look up that far, and then it could look forward really far as well, because that neck basically can lay flat, but it extends upwards and forwards to give you basically more articulation. As you can tell from here, you can raise them up like a full ½ inch just from the neck. That's how much articulative range you have there, so that's really impressive. Now, as we look into the chest, that's basically where we have the first set of butterfly joints, which allow the body to move basically forward and back, about that far and about that far back. But he has a second set under there because he basically has like a double ball peg in his shoulder. So on top of that butterfly joint, you have that second double ball peg, and that gives you another range of movement. Then under that, you have a butterfly swivel that goes upwards, which then allows you to get way past 90 degrees. The arm literally swings up above the head, which is usually not the case with a lot of these figures. So again, that's because of the Robot Spirits and how they've developed these. The arm does a full 360. And then if we look up at the top of the bicep, there is a bicep swivel. It's a little tight, so I didn't do too much there. You don't really need to. But then there's this other swivel that's in the elbow that allows it to bend basically left to right. As you can tell, there's the cutout for it. So that's really damn cool. We need more of that for sure. Now, the elbow only comes to a little bit past 90 degrees, but again, with how much you can get out of the arm by itself, that's okay. A little bit past 90 degrees, I think, is all we really need, so that's really nice. Then, as we move further down, we get into the wrist. The wrist is also on a double joint. So double ball peg, I believe, is double ball peg. And then inside that gray area allows for another level of articulation. So the arm does go, up, down, left, right, and then that ball peg allows the hand to move even more. And of course, that right there is going to be equivalent on the other arm as well. And then as we move into the body, that same neck joint that we have is also in that mid torso, which allows the entire body to lift up. As you can tell, they're giving him again a whole another inch of height if you wanted to do some kind of comparison like that. But then of course the gap is just pretty crazy. But of course this is to allow for a whole nother level of articulation that I feel is normally not seen in basically any kind of figure that's not a robot. So that's kind of the cool thing about these robots, that you can get so much. Now, while you can't, it's hard to get your fingers in there for the bottom waist part. Even the bottom waist also swivels left to right. Could you get a full 360? Possibly. I'm not going to play with it. When it comes to the flight wings on the side, they're fully articulated up and down, and then the whole skirt piece basically moves as well as you bring the legs forward. Now, if you've owned these Gouf types before, you'll know that they basically have this weird kind of like inner groin area. It's not even a swivel. It basically swings forward and swings back, as you can see there. And I don't just mean swing forward. I mean, if you have the legs straight down, you can basically move it forward and back, like from rear to front. And then, of course, you have the ball itself that then allows you to, bring the leg up. Now, for how thick that lower leg is, you can still manage a 90-degree angle on the kickback. That's absolutely admirable. No, not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. He does do the splits. I don't think I showed it here, so my apologies. But as we move down into the legs, there's a lot going on here, so follow with me here, okay? So we have that thruster at the top that swivels up and down a little bit left and right. The leg itself is on a double ball peg, so again, that allows it to move forward, back, and swivel around. And then there's that cover that you kind of see around the foot that also moves around with the foot. So again, there's a lot going on in there to give you that look that you might be going for. And then on the back, the rear thruster does not move, but it has a flap at the bottom. Again, this sells you on the idea that this is basically a flight type Gouf. So that's pretty cool. And then moving into the backpack, of course, we have those other flight wings. They also bend in and out. And then all of the thrusters are also movable as well. So it allows all the thrusters to move up and down, kind of circle around. So there's definitely some movement that you can do there with the basically with those thrusters to give it a different look, make it look like it's flying upwards, forwards, side to side, whatever. But you can give it that effect, and I really appreciate them giving us something that looks this cool and articulates this well for the size, which is something we're going to get into next, just so that you guys can see how I don't want to say how small these guys are, but you'll definitely get a good idea of sizing in a second. Now, for these size comparisons, I did bring out a absolute ton, basically everything I have in my Robot Spirits line. I think I'm missing maybe one figure, so let's go ahead and break it down and see what we have here. So to begin with everything, we have the Easy 8 wearing the backpack itself. As you can tell, it looks like the Easy 8 is the slightest bit taller. I will tell you guys right now, be mindful of some of this. As you can tell, there is a slight difference. Here we have the 07 team member here, and as you can tell, that one looks slightly shorter. These guys have so many different points of articulation where it can go up and down a little bit, that any kind of discrepancy you see here might just be because of that, not necessarily because they are smaller. Here we have the 08th MS team R79 ground type. And as you can see here, about the same size as the Easy 8. So that's why I'm saying don't take it to heart sizing here, as I'm not 100% certain. The difference in height, I tried getting it all about even as possible, but there could be a little bit of difference. Here we have the original Gouf custom that we got, which I at this point have replaced, but here is a good size comparison, as you can see. And then moving over to the regular Goufs, basically these ones are the regular type, and on the right side we have the one with the pauldron that has the spikes on it. So it's the exact same figure on both sides, but that pauldron was only seen in apparently a manga or some kind of illustration that we got. So this is something that is also different. So technically speaking, we have 3 different units right here, which is really nice. So I'm trying to build this up as much as I can. Now, this is the updated Gouf custom, and yeah, I didn't want to show you guys both those figures together because I'm planning on doing a review so that you guys can go ahead and see both of them side by side and see what the differences are and see if it's worth the upgrade, or if you have the new one, is it worth buying the older one to go with it? It's going to be up to you, but we're going to go ahead and talk about that later. But you can see a lot of the similarities here in terms of the head, the body, the arms, even the same hand and sword. Of course, all the differences come basically below the knees and at the shoulders, and some other pieces as well. And then here we have the Jin, which, by the way, I have 2 of these, but from my understanding, there's no real actual difference between any of the Jins, unlike the Gouf, the regular Gouf. So here, since we have this one right here, as you can tell, things slowly get a little bit larger. I don't know what the scale is actually supposed to be between these guys in canon lore, but as you can see here, there's definitely a height difference at the very top end. The Jin is a big beefy figure overall. Okay, now switching over, now we have the Strike Gundam, and as you can tell, the Strike Gundam is definitely taller. I do believe this is par for the course for Gundam Seed. The Gundams are a bit taller, if I am correct. If you guys know anything more about the lore, let me know. But these guys are basically side by side, and it's definitely the flight type is the slightest bit shorter. Now switching over to the Dual Gundam, same thing. The Dual Gundam is about on brand in terms of extra sizing. This is also from Gundam Seed, and yeah, this is definitely taller. But that goes on par with the Jin being definitely, I would say, taller than the Gouf types, all of them basically. So I think that this looks pretty good overall. But you can start to see the difference in overall height and size. Now, I don't think I have the box for this one. I think it's in storage right now, but this is also a Gouf. This is a high-speed type or something like that. This is the Johnny Raiden. When I first bought this, I was not very, I would say, impressed overall. Not to say that you shouldn't buy it. If you like it, you like it. But as you can tell, it's got more of a maybe cartoony style look rather than maybe the traditional anime look that we see on the left with the flight type. So for me, I might be selling this guy, but that's just to show you the difference. And then this is something that really surprised me. I'm going to make a full review on this Kenbo figure, Kenbu. Man, it's an incredible figure, let me just tell you right now. And if you can get your hands on one, it's pretty cheap on Amazon. I say rush, don't run, rush to buy one, because this is a really cool figure. It's very inexpensive, and as you can tell, it absolutely towers over any Gundam figure that they've probably ever come out with. It's a huge guy. And then we also have from Revoltech the Evangelion line. I do not remember the name of this guy, it's something crazy, but this is basically on par with any Evangelion Revoltech figure that you're going to buy. I guess it's not Revoltech, I guess it's Kyoto, but the point is that all the Evangelion stuff is absolutely massive. This is what, at least 2.5 inches taller, maybe 2 inches taller. I mean, it's a pretty big difference in terms of scale. They're not going to scale very well together, but it's still a cool comparison. And then switching over to Figma, just to give you guys a few other dimensions. Here we have Doom Guy, as you can tell, much larger. Though that doesn't mean anything because Figma usually makes small figures, but here the Doom Guy is actually surprisingly large for a Figma character. So take that with a grain of salt when it comes to other Figma characters. Look up other size comparisons. I will at some point do a review on this guy as well, just so you guys can see that size comparison. And then from BuzzMod, we have Giyu. I took off everything just so you can kind of get a sense for the body itself. As you can tell, even this small guy, well, actually, he's not even that small, to be honest, because I have some of the other figures from the BuzzMod Demon Slayer stuff, and he's actually fairly tall. So this character is actually fairly tall for what we have here. I imagine Tengen is even bigger if I ever get him. But yeah, just to give you an idea of the general size of this brand line. And now switching back to Revoltech, we have the My Hero Academia Endeavor. And Endeavor is a large figure. I do believe he's shorter than All Might overall, but he's definitely a large figure, as you can tell. Absolutely towers over the Gouf. Not a comparison here, but again, just to give you guys a relative height. If you guys already have these Goufs and you want to know how big they are to, something like Endeavor, this is a good overall size comparison. Now, how is playability of this figure, right? How does it play? How does it feel? What's the plastic like? I want to say that a lot of the older Robot Spirit stuff would feel very much so like a slightly better put together kit. That's not the case anymore. This feels like a fully realized action figure that is its own thing. Is it basically a kit that somebody put together? Yeah, but something about it feels way more tight. Maybe the plastic kits have gotten better, but there's just something about this guy that, and all of the stuff that I've recently been buying, basically every single figure that you see in this lineup feels good. Everything is fairly tight, though I want to say that on the flight type Gouf, everything is a little extra tight, but not even by that much. It's not even that it's tight, it just holds very well. Everything holds well, everything poses well, everything moves into place. Nothing's really creaking, nothing feels like I'm overexerting it or feeling like I'm about to break it. It doesn't feel like it's about to come apart. And then because the articulation is so great, even though the legs lack some overall movement, that upper body can do so goddamn much that it really doesn't matter. I mean, look how cool that looks, man. This is a mech that's holding a sword, looking like some kind of flight knight, if anything. And yet here we have him just looking really, really nice, and everything moves where you want it to. Nothing's difficult, nothing's fighting you, nothing's popping off. That's not to say that that's with every single figure. Sometimes just the way that things are made, you know, sometimes you're gonna knock stuff off. That Kenbu, for instance, when I get to the review, I'll show you guys what I mean. But with this guy specifically, no real problems. I mean, I've played with this guy for, you know, a fair amount of time, and I've knocked into some of his parts before, and they didn't fall off. They didn't just clip off. They actually held pretty tight. So, you know, you can get a lot when it comes to the overall movement and articulation of this figure without having any problems. So just like most SH Figure Art stuff, just Bandai stuff in general, when it comes to playability, I definitely give this guy a 10 out of 10 for everything that he's supposed to be. You know, when you can get him into such cool poses like you just saw, it's a must buy, man. At least that's how I feel. Now to top it all off, guys, this has been a first for the Trial by Gaming channel, and here we have the flight type. And again, this flight type has been a really cool action figure. It goes really nice with part of your army builder. I highly recommend, if you have the funds for it, get two, man. I'm still highly considering, if Hobby Genki still has an extra one, I might just slide over and get one so that I can have the two from the OVA, because this is an absolutely incredible looking figure, and he looks good when you have your army builder Goufs around him as well, to just make him look like there's a squad here. This is a fantastic overall look. So I highly recommend this figure. I highly recommend most of the MS-08 team stuff. For me, this has been a really nice resurgence of me getting back into Gundam, and I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I did, but once I started getting into these guys, even buying stuff that's, a little bit more expensive from Premium Bandai, I think it's worth it, man. They have a good product in hand, and yes, as you could tell, compared to like the Kenbu, they are on the smaller side, but that is not for lack of money being poured into these guys to give them the insane articulation that you guys get out of them. So again, highly recommend it. If you're only gonna get one, I say start off with this guy. I know that maybe you could get a Gouf for cheaper, but go all in. See if you can get this flight type for a good price. I think once you bust him out and you play with him and you see what the limitations are of the articulation and how it feels in hand, you're not going to be disappointed, and you're going to probably fall down the same rabbit hole I did. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know what you guys would like to see in the next one. Were there any from the size comparisons that you want me to try to prioritize, like the Gouf Custom? Do you want me to prioritize that for a future review? I have a lot of things hopefully in the pipeline that you guys are going to be able to see soon. But again, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe. I might have a Patreon coming up soon. We'll see about that. But definitely just trying to see what I can do with this channel. And I hope you guys are loving the content. But until then, I will see you guys on the next one. Deuces.